Good morning, everyone. So today you and I are going to talk about change and measuring the value of change. So let's get into it. Now, I'm going to tell you that you and I and everybody else together, as a part of the IT world, you live in a reality where you have literally a million choices in terms of tooling, in terms of programming languages, in terms of all kinds of options. And for a lot of people, it feels a bit overwhelming. I know that it felt very overwhelming to me as well. And to some extent, it actually still feels that way. And one thing that I have noticed in particular, which is something that I've talked about previously, is the idea of trends. It is the idea of different people making technical decisions based on different trends within the community. And, this is not unique to us in any sort of way. Trends come and go in all possible aspects of society. It happens everywhere. There is nothing unique about trends in programming. But I will argue that trends coming and going in programming has a little bit of a more impact than it has in some other areas. And here's why. Because you see, when you make a technical decision, that's an investment for a lot of companies. One thing that I think is very funny about JavaScript land, especially front-end and like all of these different trends that are happening in that area, is the short-sightedness of it all. What do I mean by short-sightedness? Well, there's a standing joke about front-end or JavaScript basically, where people will say, you've been using React. Oh, that's really retro. It's been there for 6 months. Haven't you rewritten it yet? It's a bad joke. I'm gonna be honest, but it illustrates a very nice point, because JavaScript is moving so quickly and everything in front end is moving so quickly and the trends are shifting so quickly that it's very difficult for you to make a technical decision. Let's say that you pick a framework today. I can swear to you here and now that within a year, there's going to be a shinier framework or a tool or something like that that is going to make you feel like, why didn't we go with this thing here? Why don't we switch over to this thing here? This is the trend I see with React and Angular. Angular came in, everybody was really excited about it. They started using it, and now it's absolute shit in most people's eyes, and they're migrating over to React, or at least as a later version with a lot of breaking changes for Angular. And although that change might be interesting to a lot of people, from a business point of view, it's absolutely horrible. Imagine this. I know for a fact that one of the largest companies here in Gothenburg invested in Angular, and for some reason their architect just said, hey, shit, no, this is not going to work for us. Let's migrate everything over to React. So now the company, which is a very large company with a lot of code, is migrating a massive product over to React, and it's costing them millions. So at small scale, this may not be much of a problem, but at large scale, it becomes a really big problem. So how does this tie into change? Well, I'm going to tell you that one of the most important life lessons and one of the most important skills, I argue, that you can master in order to become a truly great master programmer, listen up, because this is a big one, is to learn the skill, because it is a skill. Learn the skill to value or quantify the value of a change. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean that when you don't have much in terms of experience and you don't pay attention to what is truly important in software development, or at least what is truly important for being productive in software development, these changes, these sort of changes, are things that you think are just arbitrary things that you do. You cater to the trends in a very different manner as opposed to somebody who really pays attention to this. I will quote somebody who I think is truly inspirational. It's a guy who I used to be a Starcraft nerd, played a lot of Starcraft, and my favorite channel to watch was Day9. If you haven't checked him out, he's an absolutely lovely person. I think he's still doing it. Go and watch his channels and learn if you're interested in Starcraft or gaming in general. I mean, shit, if I was a woman, I would be out for that man's man flesh. Just saying. Love that guy. And he said one of the most important things when I was trying to get good at Starcraft, he was explaining that as a beginner in Starcraft, you feel like your enemy always have like a million options. There's so many things that he could come in with air, go with like dominance for air. He could go for all kinds of different strategies, and you feel like there's all these options that you have to kind of account for, and you don't really know what's going on. And then he said, just stop. You have to remember that everything that you do affects the options that your enemy has, because if your enemy goes down one route without checking what you're building, and you build something that's strong against what he's building, you are going to win. So he doesn't have much in terms of options either. What you decide on is going to affect his ability or her ability to face off against you. So you just think that there are all these options and that you have to account for everything and so forth. But there's really only a small limited amount of things that can happen. And the same thing goes here. Think of valuing or having the skills to value what is truly important in software development and being productive as being a poker player. If you play poker, you cannot change the cards that you have. It's not possible. But what you can do is that you can decide when it's a good time to bet and when it's a good time to fold. And just having that option will affect how much, statistically, if you're really good at that, and you have that ability to look at the situation and see when it's a good time and when it's a bad time, you will get, well, in theory, you will get rich. That's basically the way that the game works. True masters of Texas Hold'em or poker or whatever you want to call it are the sort of people who have mastered the skill that I'm trying to tell you about. To have that gut feeling when it's a good time, when it's a bad time. And how this ties into software development is this. If you are paying attention to what is truly important in terms of being productive and delivering value in software development, you will be the sort of person who can sit down and see when all the trends are running amok. You can look at a suggested change or a tool or something of that nature and say, yeah, this is going to measure up, or this is not a good idea because it's not going to produce much in terms of value. So why would we migrate from this thing to this thing? It doesn't really make any sense. And to give you a great example, let's say for the sake of argument that you start a company, and at that time, for whatever reason, you're starting a sales platform, an e-commerce platform. And at that moment, you really only want to get up a web shop of some sort. And you start working and you actually get a little bit of attraction there and you get sales and so forth, and you start with basically, say, PHP. It's a very popular first start. And the considerations you have when you do make that choice is that you look at the job market, you see that there's a lot of developers using PHP, you see that there's a lot of good support for PHP, it's a stable platform, etc., etc. You make an evaluation, you measure the value of PHP at that moment in time as a solution to your problem. You start working. And a few years later down the road, a feature request comes in, and now all of a sudden you need to handle transactions and money values and stuff of that nature. And somebody comes and tells you, or maybe you even feel that way yourself, that damn, I really should have picked something with types or something of that nature. Let's say it's unperformant. I should have really gone with something with more performance. And you beat yourself up. And here I am telling you, no, don't do that. Because it was the right decision at that moment. When you first started, it was the right decision. And it was the right decision up until this point. And now you get to try out the skill that you should hone to perfection. And that is to look at the new requirement, to say that, because let's say that this feature is really big money for you and it's really important. Now you have to have that skill to determine, should I rewrite this? Yes or no? And if you are truly great at measuring what the results of making this change is going to be, you're going to be able to guesstimate how much the cost of migrating from one thing to another thing is going to be, and what the value that you're going to get for making that migration is going to be. And then it becomes a trivial thing for you to see which one is going to be more valuable. Do you stick with the thing you have and live with the limitations of what you have, or do you switch and reap the benefits? Because if the benefits are truly outweighing the costs of being where you are today, then you should make the migration. But in order for you to get that gain, you have to master the skill of measuring the value of change. Have a great day.